Morning, everyone. TGIF. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance here with you in the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame studios. TK joining us from Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. I've got a big order over there that I placed. Tommy going to be going over there about after the radio show tomorrow, live from Calandro's. I'll be stopping by to pick it up. Looking forward to that. Got some tomahawk steaks. Got some filet. I got a filet loin. Got some ribeyes. It'll be good stuff. All right, today on Sports Shorts Daily, Michael Thomas. Will he ever wear a New Orleans Saints uniform again? He is out for the rest of the year. He's on IR with what basically is an old school turf toe injury. Going to have surgery again, they're saying. We'll get into that. Such a disappointment. Also, the World Series. Good game last night. Astros win 3-2 over the Phillies. They're now up 3-2 and head back to Houston. Game 6 on Saturday, Game 7, if necessary, on Sunday. Astros now playing in their 4th World Series in the last 6 years, trying to win their second one. Bregman played a big role in that game yesterday. Verlander got off the schneid, got his first World Series victory, even though he'd been fantastic in postseason with the strikeouts in the playoffs. The World Series has kind of been a struggle for him. Got a win yesterday, went 5 innings, left with the up 2-1 when he departed. So we'll get into that game. There's some great defensive plays by the Astros late in the game to really save it. And what has happened to the Phillies offense? I mean, after putting up a 7-0 victory in Game 3, they get no hit in Game 4 and only score 2 runs in Game 5. It was a struggle. NFL, how about this? The irony that Philadelphia plays Houston, the Texans take on the Eagles in the NFL on Thursday night. The Eagles won. They covered. They are now 8-0. Impressive for the Eagles. Jalen Hurst. You can't throw enough bouquets at this guy. We'll get into that. Pelicans, with their 4-3 record, take on a 3-6 Golden State Warriors team tonight in the blender. The Pels are a 4-point favorite in that game. The Warriors actually, Kerr came out, their head coach, talking about maybe might change the rotation. So the defending champs off to a slow start, as are a lot of teams this year that were expected to be better. Big news in the NBA: Kyrie Irving continues to be a distraction for the Brooklyn Nets. He's now been suspended 5 games. It could be longer. To me, there's mental issues there with Kyrie Irving going back to his days in Cleveland with LeBron. As good of a player as he is, he's now at the point of not being worth it anymore. And obviously, LSU, Alabama, everybody getting ready for Saturday. Everybody's playing weatherman, trying to figure out if it's going to rain and when it's going to rain and all that kind of stuff. The game is sold out, not a surprise. And of course, the Tigers find themselves, the line hasn't moved in the last 24 hours. They're a 13.5-point underdog. Let's bring in Tommy. First order of business, let's talk Michael Thomas, TK. Going into the year, you had Landry and, Olave, the first-round pick you were excited about. He was going to be like the third option. Landry's going to be your number 2. You had Michael Thomas, the former Pro Bowler, an all-pro wide receiver, back healthy. And this looked like a pretty good, really good offense when you throw in Kamara. You got Jameis Winston healthy. And here we are, no Jameis. Thomas is out for the year. Landry's been hurt. Olave's been great. And somehow, what's the Michael Thomas? Will he ever wear the uni again? The Saints?
I don't think he will. And, his Twitter handle is can't guard Mike. Well, you don't have to guard Mike when he's not on the field, okay? Mm-hmm. So, I don't know that he ever plays for the Saints again. Dennis Allen saying they put him on IR and don't expect him to return. And, when the coach says we don't expect him to return, read between the lines. The guy's out for the year, okay? So, with all that being said, to answer your question, I do not think he wears a Saints uniform again. Now the salary cap issues, as you were pointing out earlier before we rolled tape here. But, unless they can get him to change his attitude and want to be on the field. I know injuries are injuries, but, if he's that soft, you can't play in the NFL.
So, when it's so hard to know an injury on, how painful it is, how serious it is. Injuries are not the same for everybody, meaning like if you have a hamstring, it doesn't, there's different levels of hamstring injuries. Some hamstring injuries you can be back in a week or two. Some can be out 8 weeks. We don't know. Clearly, this this toe injury is mega serious. I mean, this is now going to be his second, maybe third surgery on this toe. And, how much is Michael Thomas being a diva? How much it is him not being tough enough? We don't know. We don't know. Because all we know is they listed as a toe injury. And again, a toe is a toe is a toe is not really fair. It's just, you would like for him to be more vocal and more transparent and be more conversational and open about his injury, but he's not. He doesn't tell you anything. We know there's bad blood between him and the organization on how things were handled over the last year and a half with this injury. And so because of that, fans are going to err on the side of the Saints. The fans are loyal to the Saints more than they're loyal to Michael Thomas. And he's not really come out and explained what's going on, nor has he explained that, hey, look, guys, I'm devastated that I can't play. I want to be in a uniform. He doesn't say anything like that. And so all it leads you to believe is that he got the money, and unless he's feeling 100%, he ain't playing.
That's what it looks like. Now, we don't know all the details. We don't know all the specifics, but you would think with the money he's getting, and how passionate Saints fans are, that he would give them a little something more, or say, look, I'm going to work my butt off to get back on the field. That's all he's got to say. Whether he does it or not, it's all he's got to say. So it's a very unfortunate situation for the Saints, and it's becoming a distraction. But so now he's out for the year, so they can quit talking about him. And if he decides to come back, or he's in a Saints uniform next year, then you can talk about him again. I think most Saints fans are fed up with him.
It's extremely disappointing because the Saints don't have a chance of being what we thought they were. When we were buying the Saints in the offseason, and for those of us that took the over on 8.5 wins for the year, we were buying the defense from a year ago, which, oh, by the way, just happened to show up this past week and had a shutout against the Raiders. We were buying Jameis Winston being, a talent that he was a few years ago when he threw for 5,000 yards, but a little more conservative with the decision making. We were buying Michael Thomas being back healthy and a healthy Jarvis Landry with all that experience in the slot. And, it's all fool's gold because you get none of that. And so, if you took the over 8.5, you're probably going to get screwed on that deal, unless a miracle happens. But yeah, I agree. So here's the deal with Michael Thomas. At this point, again, we don't know the inner workings. It doesn't seem, the little bit we do know, it doesn't seem like it's a great kumbaya situation between the Saints and him. If the Saints were to just get frustrated and cut him before June 1st, he would be around $24 million or so in dead money next year. He would count 10, 11 million or whatever against the cap this coming year. If they wait till after June 1st of 23 to cut Michael Thomas, obviously by then they'll know, is he back 100% healthy? Is he not? Does he want to play for us? Do we want to deal with this shit? But if they cut him after June 1st of 23, then that cap hit goes to like $2.5 million next year, and the dead money is like 11 or 12. Much more palatable of a situation. So I don't expect there to be any decisions made on Michael Thomas until after June 1, because there's no benefit to making any decisions before then.
Well, you might not be able to make one because you won't know his exact status health-wise.
Right. All right, so we move off of Michael Thomas and just some heartbreaking news, especially when you got the Ravens coming to town on Monday Night Football. You need all hands on deck, and that's one hand that they will not have. Although, hey, give it up for the Saints and taking Olave. He has been everything that they hoped for at this point. It's only not even halfway through the season. He would be the rookie of the year in the NFL, I do believe. Moving on to last night's Major League Baseball game. The Astros win 3-2, Tommy. Well, I thought it was a well-played game, well-pitched game. I mean, the guys these days, I mean, when it gets down to the end, obviously Presley doesn't throw 98, 99, but he has unbelievable knuckle curve. He's got an unbelievable slider. So he's got plus other pitches. But I mean, these arms at the end, Tommy, are just unbelievable. 98, 99, 100 with a sharp breaking ball. I don't know how any of the games aren't 3-2. I don't know how all the games aren't 3-2.
Well, the Astros, when we throw Abreu, Montero, and Presley, you can forget it. I mean, now Montero walked a couple people last night. They got him out. But them guys.
Abreu is a horse. I mean, he is a horse.
Yeah. He could throw for me any day.
He looks like he's like a tight end or linebacker or something. I mean,
well, but that's why I picked the Astros. A lot of people picked them because the bullpen that they have that helped them win 106 games this year has helped them, make a pretty sporty run here in the playoffs. Taking 2 out of 3 in Philly, with the pitching, the combined no-hitter. Don't forget that. So, I fully expect them to win Saturday night. I'd be surprised if there's a game 7. Framber Valdez, he's every bit as good as all the guys we just talked about. In fact, he might be better. He's got more consistent starts than anybody in baseball in the last decade. So, looks like the Astros, it's not done yet, but it looks like the Astros will be hanging that second World Series banner up, second in 6 years.
So the Astros at the end made some defensive substitutions. The play at first base with Schwarber up, really well done by the coaches, right? Because that was a situation where they're going to throw cutters in, sliders in. They know Schwarber's going to, if he hits the ball fair, he's going to pull that ball down the line or hit it foul or right down the line. That's where they were pitching him. So instead of the first baseman holding the runner and then usually bouncing off the bag, 2, 3, 4 steps, instead he basically is a half a step off the bag, foot practically on the line, on the foul line, in perfect position to catch the one hopper to prevent a double and, in a game-changing situation, a tie and run to score. And then, of course, the catch against the wall, that's going to be at least 2, where he went up and made an unbelievable catch. The Philadelphia Phillies native, Philadelphia native fan of the Phillies. It'd be like playing for the Green Bay Packers against the New Orleans Saints if you're Jarvis Landry or something like that, and you got to play in a championship game in New Orleans. I mean, you grow up a fan, and here you are making a play in the stadium in front of all your friends and family against your childhood team. I mean, that's what happened there in the 9th inning to save the tying run from going to second base. Unbelievable catch. And, you can't say enough. And, oh, by the way, it got a little chilly last night. It was around 50 degrees, maybe 48 degrees when that ball was hit. Had it been the night before, the day before that, when it was more like in the 60s, 70s, the ball might have flown out of the ballpark.
Yeah, that catch by McCormick, I mean, don't try that at home, folks.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do it. I mean, the timing involved kind of reminds me of Ray Wright's catch at Omaha for LSU. The timing that's involved to make a play like that, knowing the fence is there. I mean, that highlight will be shown forever, especially if Houston wins the World Series, which I think they will. That's a game changer because it's a double, maybe a triple, depending on how it may ricochet. And then Real Muto, who hit that ball, does have an inside the park home run in that park, off that same area. So, that chain link fence, that ball could have went a lot of different ways, and, it could have been double, stand-up, triple, So, hey, the Astros got it done, and they're flying back home today, and I bet they're feeling quite confident.
I tell you, Bregman reminds me right now of like Altuve back in 17. Remember when you didn't want any part of Altuve back then? You got this little teeny tiny guy in Altuve at 5'5". The zone is super small, and you just felt like, how do you pitch this guy? How do you get him out? And that's kind of Bregman's approach, man. When he comes up in these clutch situations where they can't really pitch around him, and they got to come at him, and he spreads out a little bit. He's locked in with that zone, with that short swing. Like, I don't know what you throw him. You just hope he gets himself out. There's no obvious spot against him. There's no obvious like cold zone that you could throw in go to him at.
He will get a little pull happy sometimes with a breaking ball, and that's the book on him. But you're right, Ronnie. He spreads out a little bit. He's got a short, quick swing. Very short, very quick. Hand speed's unbelievable. That's why he hit that ball into right the other night. He went with the pitch like he's supposed to do. Bregman's a great hitter. He really is.
All right, so let's talk a little football here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that going on tomorrow.
Yeah, a little bit of football going on. Of course, last night Eagles improved their record to 8-0 and made the story of the NFL. But yet I don't know that anybody's really buying them. You know what I mean? Like it's weird. They're 8-0, but I don't think anybody fears them in this league. And I think a lot of that has to do with their quarterback. They're like, nobody wants to go to Philadelphia in January for a playoff game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be a tough environment. But I'd rather go there than Green Bay. I'd rather go there than face Tom Brady. You know what I mean? Like it's just it is what it is.
Well, I think the Philadelphia Eagles are kind of a parallel to the Tennessee Volunteers. They are for real. You better believe it. Not saying neither one of them will ever stumble. They might not. But man, they have they're the only undefeated team in the NFL. That speaks enough after 8-9 weeks, whatever it's been. I know there's some open dates in there, but you got to tip Jalen Hurts. The coach has done a good job. Nobody ever heard of him until he got named head coach there. I can't even pronounce his last name, but hey, the Eagles are a real football team.
The New Orleans Saints. I mean, how much of a distraction, Tommy, is the Saints? The Michael Thomas thing on this game this week.
Well, he hadn't been around or he hadn't been playing, so I don't think it's a distraction to the 53 guys that are playing. They understand, okay, if he's hurt, we don't think about him. We think about others. So I think with that announcement coming out yesterday, you don't play on Monday night in the Dome. That'll be not a thought when they take the field Monday night. The thought will be, hey, we got to figure out a way to beat the Ravens.
By the way, Nick Sirianni is the name. How about this? The fact that the Eagles are like, I don't know, 16-8 or something like that, probably in the 2 years he's been the coach. He's like 17-8. He's like the most successful coach in Eagles history. Yeah, I agree. I think the Saints have probably gotten used to him not being there. It's going to be a unique challenge for the Saints against the Ravens. Lamar Jackson is. I still believe that I'd rather him beat me with his arm than with his legs, and I still you got to pick your poison. And look, he's proven a lot of people wrong when you've had that approach against him, but. I think if you're able to pressure the quarterback and keep him without, to a minimum and keep him not being able to burn you on 20-yard runs and throw the football, I think that's what you got to do. And you got to take, look, they're coming off of a week where the secondary played well. They were able to pressure the quarterback. I still think I would much rather spy Lamar Jackson, keep him in the pocket and make him hurt you that way, and figure that you can outsling him.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And the Ravens are a 2.5-point favorite, over and under 48. So should be a fun night in the Dome for Saints fans after this wild and crazy Saturday in college football. Now that these playoff rankings are out, lots of games are going to have serious implications on that next release of the rankings for the playoff.
This is going to be one of those games where the Dome can really make a difference. I mean, a Monday night football atmosphere is always special. You get that, extra day to kind of get, to miss it, to get fired up for it. So the Saints fans have a chance to get loud and crazy, and I expect the atmosphere is going to be nuts. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be watching it from Orlando, Florida, with a group of Saints fans at a little golf trip, and so we're going to be getting our drink on, our eat on, and watching the Saints in a big way. Going to be a lot of fun.
Y'all's golf match, y'all are kind of backed in the corner. I mean, Louis Garcia spoke to the Ole Miss baseball team. They win the College World Series. So Louis is going to speak to his team before y'all's match. You better dig deep and come up with something.
Listen, it's funny. Brett McCabe, who played baseball at LSU in the early 90s, who now has made quite a great career out of being a sports psychologist. He has a company called The Mind Side, and it's out of the Birmingham area. He's the official sports psychologist for Alabama athletics. He works exclusively with Alabama football. Like, he can't work with LSU football. By the way, he offered Les Miles the opportunity to work with him prior to doing the contract with Nick Saban in Alabama, and Les turned him down, said, we don't need that. But Nick Saban locked him in and locked him up. Just another example of why one's better than the other. But his niche is working with golfers, professional golfers, collegiate golfers, a number of professional players. So it is funny, Team USA / Louisiana, which is I'm the captain of, has never lost to Team Cuba / International, which Louis Garcia is the captain of. So they're desperate to figure out. So they got Brett McCabe to address the team when he was in Miami for the Live Golf Tour last week, in hopes that would make a difference. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, Louis digging deep. Where you at, Louis?
He is digging deep. Looking around the NFL here for a minute, the Packers have lost 4 in a row. Tampa Bay is a mess with Tom Brady going through his divorce and their struggles. The Rams aren't as good as they were a year ago, the defending Super Bowl champs. This is the year where, I guess you got to buy the Eagles. But outside of the Eagles, Tommy, who's the team, one or two other teams that you're buying that, clearly are the cream of the crop?
Well, I don't know if they're the cream of the crop, but the Falcons lead the NFC South. So you got the Falcons leading the NFC South, and they're not the cream of the crop, but they are. If they win that division, in the playoffs. The Eagles are a big story. The Bills are a solid story. They're very dangerous. Don't forget Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I mean,
by the way, of the teams that you just mentioned, the one that I'm buying, it'd be the Buffalo. I think they're battle tested. I think they're also a little bit due. They're hungry. They've been on the doorstep the last 2 years. Their quarterback's playing at an MVP level. I think the Eagles are a little bit inexperienced and all that kind of stuff. Both teams, Eagles look like they're going to have obviously they got the inside track. They have the home field advantage. Philadelphia in January is not going to be a nice weather place or place to play. Buffalo surely is not. If Buffalo can get that home field advantage in the AFC, I think Buffalo's a lock to end up in the Super Bowl. I can't say the same for the Eagles.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Buffalo and Philadelphia, that could be your Super Bowl matchup. Which Super Bowl's out in Frisco this year.
It's in Arizona. Super Bowl's in Arizona. Yep.
Okay, yeah, you'll probably go to that game.
No, I don't think I will. Because the thing about the Super Bowl nowadays, the prices are so crazy. So unless you have a true vested interest, like it's your team or something, or somebody gives you tickets, I'm not spending $5,000, $6,000.
Well, you don't have the Leslie Visser hookup anymore.
No, not anymore. God bless her. All right,
they got a couple. Yeah, college football. Wow, I can't believe we waited 22 minutes to get to this.
College football, save the best for last. College football this weekend, of course, 2 epic games. But I want to talk about the college football playoff rankings before we get there. The poll comes out. People are losing their mind over the fact that Clemson is the 4th, ranked team in the country right now, according to the playoff committee. And Clemson, of course, has a very good chance of running the table. But do you think a Clemson running the table would stay at 4 over an SEC team with 1 loss? That's the question.
I'm not so sure that would happen. I mean, if Tennessee were to lose to Georgia, okay, then Tennessee won't be in the SEC championship game. They went out, and you got to think they're in the top 4 and would be ahead of Clemson if Clemson wins out, which people expect them to do. So. Yeah, it's interesting. There's lots of sideline stories and this story and if, and but, and what. I mean, there's a lot of that flying around. And typically, it all settles by the time you get to December. Okay, November is going to be a roller coaster ride. And typically, the dust settles and you can find the best 4. And it might be an argument about one of the spots or not. But lots of discussion about obviously Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, Bama, Notre Dame, Clemson. I mean, there's some games out there that are going to really have an impact. And let's not forget the highest ranked group of 5 teams, the Tulane Green Wave. And if they can get their stuff together, they go to a New Year's Six bowl game. So that's big for Tulane. So it's going to be fun. They play at Tulsa, 7.5-point favorite this week. I like the Green Wave, but anyway, so we'll see.
Tommy, stick around after the show. I got something to talk to you about regarding Tulane. Tulane, by the way, yeah, at Tulsa. Matt Forte spoke to the team yesterday at practice. He was in New Orleans, the 2023 Louisiana Sports Hall of Famer. And then tonight at Slidell High, where Matt Forte went, he is going to be honored at the game. Going to be honored at the game tonight. But the Tulane is on the road. Hey, there would be a neat story, but there's so many scenarios. I mean, it's still so early. There's so many scenarios with the SEC. Tennessee's already beaten Alabama and already beaten LSU. If Tennessee loses, say, on a field goal to Georgia, great game, they lose at the very end to Georgia. And then Georgia goes on to win the league. And they're one loss, they beat Alabama or LSU, whoever they play in the championship game. And they're undefeated. Obviously, they're in. They'll be the number one seed. But Tennessee, if Alabama or LSU makes it to the championship game, would Tennessee be in? Or how about Alabama or LSU? Let's say Alabama runs the table, gets to the championship game, beats Georgia, but Tennessee's sitting there with one loss, and it was on the last-second field goal to Georgia, but they've already beaten Alabama and LSU.
Tennessee's going to get in because they beat Bama and LSU. So, if Tennessee beats Georgia, Georgia's not going to be in the top four. Like you said, if Tennessee loses a close game, they're going to stay in the top four. And, Georgia, and then, the winner of LSU, Alabama would jump up. If LSU beats Bama, how high are they going to jump from 10?
The question always becomes, and I get it, can you put a team in the playoffs that hasn't been to their championship game of their league? That's the question.
They did it with LSU, didn't they?
No, I'm not saying that you can't. I'm saying that now that there's four, how can you,
Well, other than Ohio State, nobody else is any good.
Yeah, but clearly the playoff committee didn't tell you that when they put Clemson as number 4, because Clemson's probably going to sneak in there and run the table and then sit there with their gross 13-0 record with not playing anybody, and they're sitting there saying we're undefeated.
They'll be in. If they're 13-0, they'll be in.
Right.
They'll be one of the 4.
Right. And so you're going to have Ohio State or Michigan, whichever wins that game is going to be the other. And so the question becomes, you potentially have a Tennessee team that could have one loss or a Georgia team that could have one loss, okay? And let's say it's a Tennessee and Georgia game is a good game. But I think it's more – Tennessee's got more of the argument because they've already beaten LSU and LSU and Alabama. So if Tennessee were to lose to Georgia on like a field goal or something like that, then Tennessee's sitting there 11-1, not in an Atlanta championship game, but have already beaten 2 good teams, and either Alabama or LSU is going to be in Atlanta. And the best case scenario for Tennessee is that Alabama makes it to the championship game, and they only have one loss, and their one loss is Tennessee. So there they are, Alabama and taking on Georgia. Georgia. Let's say Alabama wins and knocks off Georgia. And so Georgia's got one loss and Tennessee's got one loss and Tennessee's beaten Alabama and Georgia hasn't. There's crazy scenarios that are not far off, that are very realistic, where you could have 3, maybe even 4 teams thinking at least 3 thinking they deserve to be in the playoffs.
Well, the whole country their hair will get on fire if Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee are 3 teams, and you throw in Ohio State or Clemson. I mean, they got to just think how crazy it's going to get when they expand the playoffs.
Well, yeah, because I am one that, just for diversity's sake, and again, they're not going to do this because they've already, going to these super conferences, and we know it's headed that way. It's probably going to be 2 conferences, 3 conferences. But I love the idea of the conference championships meaning something. Like back when the Pac-12 was the Pac-12 and the Big Ten was the Big Ten and Big 12 and all that. Like, I like the idea of give me all the champions of the major conferences and then have a bunch of wild cards so that basically the Big Ten and the SEC that have their second and third place teams can get in there.
There are those that think college football is chasing the NFL model. They want to end up with 32 super teams, with 2 conferences, 4 teams in a division. Just, follow the NFL model, which is extremely successful and makes billions of dollars. And then the money will pour in if they can copy that model at the college level. Now, that's not something that'll happen overnight. It's not going to happen next year or 3 years from now. But there are those that think that's where it's headed, say maybe in 10 years.
Well, I'll say this, Tommy. I think that the question with that model is how far down does the money trickle? Okay, is it just the 32 teams that are in, a super conference, or the 42, whatever the number of teams are in the super conference? Are they the only ones that get the money? Or how does any of it trickle down to Louisiana Tech or UL Lafayette or any of these other schools, a Tulane? How does that money trickle down to them? Or is it just with the teams that participate in this specialty group? That's the problem, because if it doesn't trickle down to UL and Louisiana Tech and these other teams, then it's going to be the death of college football outside of those big schools.
Yeah, well, and that may end up in court. Okay, that may end up in the NCAA has got the antitrust exemption, and so if 32, back in the 90s they tried to split off with 64 teams, the old CFA, College Football Association, had their own little TV contract. It didn't work because of the reasons you just said. It was going to kill the college football as we know it.
All right. Well, we're gonna be talking a lot more about this tomorrow morning on Sports Shorts Radio from 10 to noon. We'll be live at the Calandros on Perkins and Segan from 10 to noon. Ronnie Rance, Tommy Kreisand, Derry Beckwith, Hunter McCann will all be there. Joel Davis will join us. We'll have a couple special guests on the phone as well. We'll be talking plenty more about the LSU Alabama game tomorrow night, Tennessee and Georgia, and of course Saints Ravens on the weekend. Hunter McCann's been on fire with his picks, so make sure you tune in between 10 and 11 a.m. He's going to give you some winners. He has been picking at like an 80%, 90% clip of wins over the last 3 weeks. So you make sure you want to get those for you gamblers out there. And also a little news here in town. If you know Ryan Maranto or Casey McKenzie, if you are friends with either one of them, acquaintance, whatever, please encourage them to participate. Tommy, this is something I'm trying to line up. A benefit for the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We'd like to do it December 17th at the LeBears Casino at the Event Center. All right. It would be called the Holiday. I came up with a name for it. Hang on. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm getting this right because I already came up with it. Here we go. Holiday Rumble in the Red Stick. Okay, so it would be an amateur boxing event at the Holiday Rumble in the Red Stick that Saturday night, where we would feature, female amateur fighters, professional, up and coming amateurs, guys that are competing in Golden Gloves or about, trying to get to the Olympics, maybe about to turn pro. I love boxing. I love old school boxing. If you've ever been to a boxing match, it's a lot of fun. But it would be a benefit to the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. But it would also feature a pair of celebrity matches at the end of the event. Kind of a picture of Michael Cobble versus Jacques Doucet, a WAFB versus WBRZ. I'm not saying they would do it, but I'm just something like that for a charity and an event. Well, a Casey McKenzie versus Ryan Maranto for charity fight at the end, I think would be a big, big hit. And there's some talk, by the way, behind the scenes that this might actually happen. So if you see them, encourage them. We're trying to get this done. We got to move fast. It'd be a great benefit. Holiday Rumble in the Red Stick. Casey McKenzie versus Ryan Maranto will be the feature match. It was discussed at Phil's Oyster Bar this week by the two of them. I think that both are willing to do it. And obviously Casey would be all Rougarooed out in his Rougaroo gear. I don't know what I think Ryan would be in some sort of sequin jacket, I'm sure, coming into the ring. But please make sure you text them, make sure you call them. We want to make this happen.
And I just looked it up. Maranto's minus $1.50 favorite in that match.
Actually, that's pretty fair because Brian Langlois had a minus 175. So
I got him minus $1.50 on Ryan Maranto. he's in much better shape than Casey McKenna.
Yeah. Although Casey down a number of pounds in the last few weeks, so
Yeah,
well,
that
give him a
doesn't
little
matter.
credit.
Okay,
You know,
his stamina's gone.
All right, he's TK. Will be on the air tomorrow morning, Sports Shorts Radio, 10 to noon on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Don't forget Tremonti's Meat and Seafood. They're taking orders already for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Thanksgiving turkeys, fried, rotisserie, smoked, all the side dishes. Go to Tremonti's.com, click the seasonal tab, all the pricing. Everything is there that you need. Of course, lunch special today, fried catfish with crawfish etouffee, barbecue ribs for lunch tomorrow. They do the deer processing for all you deer hunters out there. But get those turkey orders in now. They're going to be north of 1,200 turkeys walking out the door, or not walking, but going out the door on Thanksgiving morning. Some people pick it up the day before. They can schedule all that for you. Stop by Tremonti's on Jefferson Highway near Parkview Baptist Church and School, or call them 225-751-7665, or go to Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Facebook, Instagram. There's plenty of ways to connect. You want to get it done at Tremonti's.
All right, we'll see you on Monday for more Sports Shorts Daily. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Tuesday.
Whatever. We'll
Tuesday, Sports Shorts Daily Radio tomorrow. Thank y'all. Appreciate everybody.